Hey guys, welcome back to our VCP 6.5 ICM hands-on training. This is lab number 18 in our series. In this lab, we'll go ahead and work with the alarms. So far, if you have noticed, when you do some actions, sometime you do see some alarms being generated. Now we'll go ahead and configure our own custom alarm. We'll see how we can go ahead and create some alarm, and we'll go ahead and disable those alarms. And we can also take some actions based on those alarms. So this is the high-level agenda or objective we plan to cover in this lab. We'll go ahead and create an alarm to monitor a condition. We'll also go ahead and create an alarm to monitor a particular event, and then we'll go ahead and trigger and acknowledge those alarms. We'll also take a look how can you remove or disable the alarms. So pretty straightforward. Let's jump onto the hands-on. So right now we have logged onto the VMware vSphere web client, and we have a couple of the VMs. So now let's go ahead and select one of the VM where we want to create an alarm and we want to monitor some of the things. Creating an alarm is pretty easy. Go to your VM and simply go ahead and right click on that particular VM. So there are a couple of options, and one of the option that is being presented here, it says alarms. So within the alarm there are a couple of things. The one thing that says new alarm definition, there is an enable alarm action and there is a disable alarm action. So right now what we are interested is in the new alarm definition. So simply go ahead and click on new alarm definition. So now we'll go through a small kind of a wizard. Now let's go ahead and give it a name to this alarm. So I will go ahead and call it VM3 CPU monitor or usage. We can go ahead and provide some description if you like. In the monitor, we will go ahead and select, leave that to be a virtual machine, and we are monitoring here for a specific condition here. So we'll go ahead and leave some of this thing and we will enable this alarm. Now let's go to the trigger part. Trigger part is the one where we can go ahead and configure some of the things that we want to take care. So now just simply go ahead and click on add here. So within this we can go ahead and select VM CPU usage. Now the operator is above, so we can go ahead and define some condition if it's above. Now here we can go ahead and change the warning condition. Right now it says 75% for 5 minutes, so simply just double click. If you need to change the value, we'll say if my CPU usage remains 40% above for 5 minutes, or if you want to go ahead and bring down the condition. So now let's go ahead and reduce the timer to probably just for 30 seconds. If the condition remains for about 40% for 30 seconds, we'll go ahead and raise some particular warning condition. And same way for critical, we can go ahead and change it. Let's go ahead and change this value to 70%, and we can go ahead and change the timer again to 5 minutes or maybe less. Let's go ahead and change this probably just to 2 minutes. So these are some of the conditions that we can go ahead and configure for alarm. So these are our triggers. So based on these conditions, the alarm will trigger. So here we are just monitoring the CPU usage, where we are saying the warning, the system should raise a warning if the CPU usage is 40% for the consistent 30 seconds, and it's critical if it's about 70% for consistent 2 minutes. Once everything looks good, just simply go ahead and hit next here. And now we are being presented with the actions. So what are the actions that we can take if we run into those particular triggers or those particular conditions? Now we can go ahead and define our actions here just by simply clicking on the plus. In the actions, there are a couple of things that we can do. We can reset a VM, we can simply send an email, or there are a couple of things that we can do. So let's go ahead and try suspending the VM. If our VM is continue to exhibit those symptoms, we want to temporarily maybe suspend the VM for some time. There is nothing in the configuration part. One that is says green to yellow, from normal to warning. If green to yellow happens, so what do you want to do? Double click and go ahead and you can select, okay, we will say only once. If it happens, just do it only once. If the situation changes from your yellow to red, we will go ahead and change this value to again. We will just leave it again once. Red to yellow, we are not making any changes to some of these conditions. We are only making the change from green to yellow and yellow to red pretty much, and rest of the things we are just leaving at defaults in terms of the actions. Now once everything looks good in terms of the actions that we have configured, I'll just go ahead and simply finish this particular wizard, and we just went ahead and created our first alarm. Now if you want to take a look at some of these things, we can go back to the VM, and within the VM, if we go to the monitor, under the monitor, let's go under the monitor, and so I am on the VM. We are on the monitor tab. Now let's go to the issues, and under the issues we have a couple of the options that says all issues, trigger alarmed, and the alarm definition. So we can go ahead and take a look at the alarm that was created by us. So here is our particular alarm that we just created. We can take a look at some of these are the different actions, the trigger state, and these are the actions that we are taking based on these particular triggers. And now if the CPU utilization or anything go above, this will go ahead and trigger this particular event, and we will do that very soon. Now let's go ahead and create one more alarm. In this case, we are going to monitor a specific event instead of for some condition. We will go ahead and monitor for some event. So now we would simply just go ahead and go to our data center level, and at the data center level, we'll just go under the monitor tab. Under the monitor tab, again, we have the same issues tab. Under the issues tab, if I go here, the alarm definition. Right now, there are a couple of the existing alarms. So we will go ahead and create a new alarm. So now simply go ahead and click on plus button to create a new alarm definition. Now within the alarm definition, we are being presented with a couple of things. The first thing is your alarm name. So let's go ahead and call this as we want to, if that something happens, we want to suspend the VM. So we were suspending the VM earlier, and we would just say VM3. And in this case, we are monitoring the virtual machine, monitor for specific condition or state, for example, CPU usage, specific event occurring. In this case, we are monitoring the event, not the condition. So I will go ahead and change from condition to event. In this case, we will go ahead and leave that checkbox selected, and now just simply go ahead and hit next on this page. Now on this page, again, we are being presented with the triggers. Basically on the trigger page, we can now, let's go ahead and click on the plus sign, and we will go ahead and follow some of the things. So now just simply go ahead and on the trigger, in case of the event. So in the event, let's go ahead, and the event that we were monitoring is VM suspend, and what happens is the alert. So if we see an event not starting, VM suspend actually. Now if this particular event happens, what do we want to do? So we can go ahead and specify some conditions over here where we can say we were monitoring for the VM name. So I'll just say VM space name. So let me go ahead and take a look. So we'll say VM name is equals to, so the VM that we are working is VM-3. So what we are saying, okay, hey, if you find an event where the event type is VM suspended, and if you happen to see the VM name is VM3, we want to do something. And that's what we are defining here. Just pay special attention to the value for the VM name. This name is case sensitive. So make sure if it's uppercase or lowercase, you are following the same. Go ahead and click next here. Now we are being presented on the actions thing. Now we will just not go ahead and do any kind of actions. We'll just go ahead and simply finish the changes. And we should see our event being listed under the alarm definition, which is VM suspend -3. Now we will go ahead and try to trigger the alarm, and we will go ahead and acknowledge that particular alarm. So now let's go back to our VM3, and if I go back to again to the monitor tab, under the monitor tab we are under the issues. Now we can go ahead and click on the triggered alarms. So now under the triggered alarm, if you see right now, no alarms has been kind of triggered. So we will go ahead and try to increase the CPU load or CPU utilization on this VM, hoping that we are able to generate enough load that would probably make the CPU utilization above 40%, and we should see this event being generated. So with that hope, let's log on to our VM3, and now let's try to run our load generation script. So I will go ahead and run this particular script and let it run for a few seconds. So we have started our script, so we need to wait for at least like 30 to 60 seconds before we can see anything happening. So I will leave this running, and when we see some event, I will let you know. If you can see, the VM had the utilization, and you can see on the bottom it says suspend virtual machine. So that means that particular event got triggered. So if I go ahead and refreshed and not just acknowledged ones. So if you take a look on this particular tab, now let's go back one more time. But if I go back to the summary tab, and if you see right now, this particular VM was suspended because the CPU utilization on this VM was above that particular condition. So now let me go back quickly to the VM, to the monitor issues. And as you can see on all the issues right now, this particular issue happened where our alarm, the VM suspend VM3 triggered alarm, the alarm was triggered, and the state is right now, it says into the alert state. If I go to the triggered alarms, for this to show up, we need to wait for 2 minutes. That was the time we had configured. Now let's go ahead and under all issues, we go to this particular alarm that was triggered. Now we can go ahead and reset this back to the green. So let me go ahead and click on reset the selected alarm to green, and as you can see, the VM is being powered on. It's coming out from the suspended state, and we can go under the again the monitor tab. Under the monitor tab, now we can go under the task and events, and again under the events, if you see, these were some of the tasks that happened. If I go under the events, and we can see the manually the alarm was cleared on this particular VM, and if you want, we can go ahead and simply right click on this VM, and now we can go ahead and power on this particular VM, because that VM was suspended because of that particular condition. So now let me just go ahead and power on this particular one. Now our VM is powered on. So you can see that's how you can create the alarms based on some condition. You can trigger those alarms, and you can also create some alarm to monitor certain events that occurs on your vCenter. Now we'll go ahead and also take a look at how we can go ahead and disable the alarms that we had created. So to disable the alarm, the process is pretty much same. You go back to your VM under the monitor tab. We will go under the issues again, and here we go under the alarm definition, the alarm that was created. And in this case, this was the alarm that we had created, VM3 CPU monitor. Now on this particular one, we can go ahead and simply click on edit here. And on this page, there are a couple of options where it says the alarm is enabled. We can just simply go ahead and deselect that. That means we are kind of disabling this particular alarm. Once that is done, we can just simply go ahead and click finish. That means this alarm is no more active, and that's how we can go ahead and disable the alarm basically. Now let's go ahead and try to do the same thing for the other one. So now if I go back, and if you take a look, we can do that from the VM, because this alarm we created at our data center level. So now let's go back to your data center level, DC1. We go back to the monitor, issues, alarm definition, and within the alarm definition. So here is our VM suspend alarm that we had created. So simply go ahead and click on edit one more time here, and we can just simply repeat the process for this alarm. We can go ahead and save the changes. So that's how we can go ahead and create some alarm. We can go ahead and disable those alarms. We can create alarm for certain conditions, and as well as we can create certain alarm to monitor some events. That'll be all for this lab. I will see you guys in the next lab.